Plaintiff, Nikita Davis, says after she got out of an abusive relationship, she met the man of her dreams. Nikita claims they got engaged, and she paid the defendant to plan their wedding. But 6 days before their nuptials, he suddenly passed away. The defendant refuses to refund Nikita's money, so she's suing. Defendant Shantae Walden says working with Nikita was not always easy because she often missed appointments and didn't always keep up with their payment plan. Shantae feels awful about what happened to Nikita's fiancé, but says she has a no-refund policy and therefore owes Nikita nothing.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Greg Mathis presiding. You may now be seated.
Start with you.
I came from an unwanted, unloved household, and I got into a domestic violence relationship for many years, but I didn't want my daughters or my son to think that this is how a man's supposed to treat a woman. So I got out of the domestic violence relationship. And that's when I met Walter, the love of my life. And I met him on December 15th of this past year, which was my birthday.
2018?
Yes. And we took a picture together, and he knew at that time, he said, I was God sent. And he proposed 2 days later.
After meeting you?
After meeting me, yes, Your Honor. And once he proposed to me, we started planning our wedding to get married on June 29th. And at that time, I met with one wedding coordinator. Shortly after I met with her, she passed at the same venue. And then that's when I met Shantae, when they introduced me to another wedding coordinator.
Okay.
And I went from planning a wedding to planning a funeral within 6 days because my fiance died on June 23rd.
Sorry to hear that. And the wedding was planned for what day?
June 29th.
How did he pass?
He picked up his tux. I'm sorry, Your Honor. He picked up his tuxedo on the 22nd, and he was so excited. He was dressed really nice. The kids was like, wow, he looked good, and he was so excited about it. So that evening of the 22nd, he went to his brother's house to show him the tuxedo. So when he got to the house, he wanted to show him. He had his tux, he had his shoes on. He was looking really great. And then I saw him going towards the bathroom, hunched over with holding his heart. Then he went into the bathroom and passed out. I called 911. They came, they took him to the hospital. And at the hospital, I saw his life gone away. And I watched him as they administered CPR in the hospital till his heart stopped.
Sorry to hear that. I assume you asked the defendant to get your money back. And what were you told?
She said everything is non-refundable.
That's all she said, is it's non-refundable? She didn't give you an explanation?
She told me that all the vendors were paid in full, even though I paid her the final payment on June 22nd when she was in the Dominican
How much did you pay her on June 22nd?
I paid a total of $900 at that time.
What are the other payment dates? That's June 22nd, $900. What are the other dates?
It was one payment of $1,500 for a deposit.
What month?
And that was in January.
January 1,500.
And then on April the 7th was a check in the amount of $1,000 that was paid. On May 26th was $500. Then the last two payments was made in June.
And that was a total of $900?
In June it was $1,800 in June by itself.
All right. Let me hear from you.
Good afternoon. Nikita, first I do want to again offer my condolences to you for the loss of Walter. As I stated in my text message, I actually like Walter. My tenure in doing this for 11 years, he was one of the grooms that I actually did like. I think it was a cool dude. Was introduced to Nikita in February at the venue that I do services for. The previous wedding planner that she had contracted for her event had passed. So the initial payment of the $1,500 was not paid to me. It was paid to that coordinator at that point in time. For me meeting with her from February on up until June, I worked with her to put together a package for her that was affordable, that was for her price. My process of dealing with her at times was difficult because she did make appointments for tastings and things like that she didn't show up to. She didn't keep in line with the scheduled payment arrangements, so I had to redo appointments for her to accommodate her. And I worked with her on all levels to accommodate what she needed to get done and things like that.
Give me, is the payment schedule she stated reflective of what actually occurred?
No, the $1,500 that she paid in January was paid under contract to the previous planner. She did not pay that directly to me. I was introduced to her
that was for someone else?
Glenda, the other wedding
The other
coordinator.
person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but she didn't benefit for that, so I can't give you credit for paying her that $1,500 because she had nothing to do with that.
The venue is the owner. The owner is the one that gave me credit because when the lady died, they gave me an offer to get the money back. And they said that we'll take credit and send you someone else, and they sent Shantae. Both people work at the same venue, which is under the same owner.
So you gave the money to the owner?
Yes.
Of the venue?
Yes. No. And I have,
You say no?
No, she didn't.
What do you have? You give me the pay schedule and your
The payments that I showed, she did an initial payment on April 7th of $1,000.
That's the first time you received
Yes. May 26th, she did another payment of $500. June 15th, a payment of $900, and then June 22nd, another payment of $900.
Okay.
So the total amount that I actually received was $3,300.
Okay. I know your policy is no refunds, but why wouldn't you want to refund in this under these circumstances?
Under the circumstances, I do understand. Again, I was still trying to be compassionate given what had happened, and I do understand. Unfortunately, in this business, because we are vendors, a lot of us are small business owners. When we block off a date for a specific client, we can't market that date to another client. So that's the date that we have blocked off for that client. The vendors that I work with also offer a no refund policy. Now, you can get credit towards another event if you need to move the event or use it for some other type of event. Say, for instance, with the photographer, instead of doing it for a wedding, do it for a graduation. That's fine. But because we lose business and we can't market it to someone else, then that's why the policy states no refunds.
What she's saying is not 100% accurate. She gave me a list of all these things that they said they were going to promise me: food, cakes, limo, hotels. Only thing I have that I knew was canceled was the hotel, because I called them specifically and it was canceled, so they didn't even get the money for that. The venue that she's supposed to have paid, they never received the money as well as of June 24th. So she tells me all these venues were paid, but they were not paid out. But she never called me. She never offered anything. What she offered, what I have in Texas, she told me I could use the facility for 4 hours, but if I want food or any venues, I had to pay for it myself because everything was canceled. And then I begged her, because I didn't want Walter to be cremated. I begged her and asked her for even $2,000 so I could have a funeral instead of a cremation. And she said no. She never called. She never offered.
That's not correct. That is not correct.
The last text I have,
Nikita, I left out on June 15th, and you were aware that I was
the last text I have from you, you specifically said 4 hours, and if I want a vendor,
I offered you those
if I want a vendor, that I will have to supply it myself. I said, what about the cake and food? You said there is nothing.
They're no longer, I mentioned to you that they were no longer available. When you contacted me,
and
you were
canceled.
aware.
So if I couldn't get food, I had to call my brother to bring food to my family because
Ma'am,
I'm still
you gotta
grieving.
talk to me. I'm not
I'm
gonna let
sorry.
you do that. What she sounds like she's saying, first of all, the no refund policy is reasonable. And so, yes, you mark that date off the calendar and nobody else can see it, and that's the only money you're dependent on. And all her vendors, that's the same thing with them. The other days that you may have wanted, they probably had booked doing other things. Now, I think you sound like you have a question of whether she was considerate. And what I just heard, she was considerate enough to get the venue, but not the vendors. Do you think she intentionally didn't want to get the vendors?
I don't, well.
No, she wanted to. Just like she wanted to help you on that. But she can't make the vendors adjust their calendar and lose money. There was something you were going to show me about you paid the owner of the venue $1,500 for the services under the previous planner.
She even gave me an itemized list of everything that I owe. And I had this, here's a copy of what was paid out to the owners.
Okay, from you?
And it was 2 checks to them for $750.
Okay, let's see them, please go on. To Wedding Company Shantae. Who was that?
That's not the name of my business.
Who is Wedding Company Shantae? This who this was?
That's from the text messages I screenshot off my phone because.
Who was it? Who is that person?
That's her. We were, because she asked me.
I've only received 1 check from them. The other 2 payments were.
Well, what was the name of the other company?
They were the same company.
She says she's not a part of that company.
Where she might be.
No, we're talking Wedding Company Shantae. Is this your company at all? Are you
like
affiliated?
I said, I met her in February, so the January payment she couldn't have given it to me if she just stated that she met me in February.
Didn't you meet her in February?
I met her in February. Those are screenshot text messages with her name on the top of it. She told me when I met her that
Where's her name, ma'am?
I put it as Wedding Coordinator Shantae.
But where's the Shantae come from?
That's her name.
Shantae is my middle name.
So why do you act like you never heard of the word?
No, when you said wedding
you know what I was talking about.
When you said
you know
wedding
I'm asking about Shantae and you being deceptive.
No.
Yes. I'm going to conclude that there's a theory in the law called act of God, and contracts are avoidable when there's an act of God. If you got a club booked to have a club party that night and there's an earthquake, then it's impossible to fulfill that contract. In this case, it is impossible for you to have fulfilled that contract. Your claim is granted. Have a good day.
I tried to work with you. I offered you the venue for a celebration of life party. I offered you full decor via text message.
It's okay.
Everything set up the way it was. So I don't appreciate the fact that you make me seem as if I was being uncompassionate.
I'm going to cut you off to say I don't have nothing to say so we can end this conversation.
And
I'm
again,
still grieving.
I offer my condolences.
I'm still grieving.
I do offer my
condolences. Do you understand that? Do you understand grieving? You don't understand that.
I do.
And that's why you don't understand this case.